The air is cool and it is getting a lot colder as summer has left us and fall has begun, and we are getting ready for winter, but there's still plenty of racing to go. There's still a lot to do to the car. As you guys know, I still got a lot of gutting to do, which from the title of the video you guys probably already know what we're doing today. There's also some mechanical stuff we need to do, not just weight reduction. There's things I need to do to upgrade the car as well. So we're going to go ahead and get those done before all the races are up, and then we've got a couple more races. Oh, and what's that in the background over there? This, guys, is my work toolbox that I got for a full $200 at Harbor Freight on sale. Typically it's $300, and no, I don't have the top box for it. I do want to get it. Now, why I hear the two of you asking, do I have my work toolbox at home and not at work anymore? Well, the answer is quite simple. I quit my job in the middle of this whole pandemic to pursue YouTube full time. No, I'm just kidding. I may be stupid, but I'm not an idiot. The reality of it is I quit my job so that I could focus more on my cars, because it's a very expensive hobby, and that job was kind of holding me back. That's irrelevant. The benefit of all of that being is that with my toolbox here, there, yep, oh, I'll figure it out. There you go. With my toolbox here, I have all my tools that I used to have at work, which there's a lot of guns that are a lot more useful for working inside of cars that I don't actually have at home in a duplicate form. So that's going to be really nice. Now, to address everyone that wasn't those two people thinking about why my toolbox was at home, let's go ahead and get into what we're doing today, which is pulling out the headliner of the car. Now, as is with everything else that I do on this car, I think the sole purpose of the car is a race car. So taking out the headliner is more on the purpose of weight reduction. Now, the headliner itself is not going to be super heavy. It's probably going to be 15-20 pounds for the whole headliner. A lot of the weight's going to come out of those visors and then the lights. And then maybe the pillars a little bit, but the headliner, you know, it's not going to be a super heavy thing, so it's not going to save me a lot of weight. But it is going to be just the first step, because the next video, or a video that I'm going to shoot here shortly, is going to be removing the sunroof, which we will go ahead and do that as well, which that should be like 40 pounds of weight lost. So as you guys already know, I've taken a lot out of this car, mostly in that rear section over there, if you guys can see it. That means that there are some things that are going to be coming out of this car that I've already done, such as those Cpillars. You would need to take those out to get out the headliner, but I don't have to do that because I had to do it for the rear deck. But like always, I've created a playlist with all of the videos that I have done on disassembling the interior of the car, and I'll link that below in the description, and you can watch through that and see how other things come out of the car, maybe even things that we don't address in this video. Another thing that you also are going to have to keep in mind, other than the C-pillar trim over there, which is a little tricky, is you also have to take out the lower B trim, lower B pillar trim there, which I've already taken out. So I highly recommend looking through that playlist and checking out those things if you're trying to use this as a how-to guide to take apart your car like I'm doing with mine. So we'll make the process as simple as possible. I'm just going to go front to back, with the exception of these little 8 pillars, which are just absolutely terrible to have to do. So I'm going to do them as later in the process as possible. So that means what we're going to want to start with in the process is the sun visors, which there's 2 Phillips heads over there that I'm going to have to take out. And then underneath this piece right here, there's little caps right there. And there's going to be 2 Phillips heads under that that has to come out. Unplug the little thing. I figured since I've already got the camera angle for it, I'm going to pull out the light too, which is just a little pop out. And then a little clip. There we go. Pulled out the light too. I'm gonna let that hang there for a second. Something I didn't realize until I was putting away the screws for this passenger side, they're different lengths in there. I'm not gonna let the camera focus. The one that's on the outside, so if you're gonna put this back together, because I'm not, the one that's by the windshield is the longer screw, and the one by the back of the car is the shorter screw. So if you're putting it back together, remember that the sun visor screws are different lengths. I don't know if there's anything it impedes with in the roof, but I wouldn't try sending the longer screw through the shorter screws hole, because you might send it through the roof. The passenger side didn't have this. I don't know why the driver's side has one and the passenger side doesn't. I don't know if the passenger side's supposed to have one, but it's one of those little push pins. So you pull out the tab here in the center. There we go, and there's the other part of the tab right there. So little push pin there, none on the other side. Now we'll take care of the center part here, which is the sunroof control switch and this light, which I think this light acts the exact same way as the ones up in those other 2 spots did, where it just rocks out. Doesn't rock as much as it has clips. Okay, and then this guy, you can push it from the top, makes it a lot easier, and it'll just pop down. There's some clips around them, just be careful not to break them because they're pretty fragile. Don't pull it at all from this side, because it hooks in on those clips. You will just break the clips. I completely forgot to mention that there is a little Phillips head screw right there that you're going to also have to take out. So here's your door handle on the driver's side. There isn't one. It's just two caps. And underneath those caps are Phillips heads. Yep. And these little plastic brackets come out. So as you can see, these caps are a little bit bigger than the ones on the other side, but it's still just two Phillips heads. They cover everything up. And as you can see, they've come in these multiple parts. There's this metal bracket here on both of them, then there's the back piece, which is the same as on the driver's side, and then the handle. The handle slides freely between these, which is how you get that pulling effect. Okay, with all that taken care of, we just want to remove the trim piece here. Boom. Onward and backward to this little motion sensor, which is just a clipped in thing. My car wasn't equipped with it. It was just put in that little bracket right there. It's fine. And just because it's convenient in order for me, this is the third brake light cover. And it has to come off as well. It's just clipped in on both sides. And then it'll fall down. And then you've got a push pin clip in there, which is the same as the one that was apparently up the front. And that takes care of the third brake light area, because now this is just free. You don't have to take off this plastic cover right here that's on the windshield side. Now the back seat doesn't have handles or fake covers. They have these little clothing hooks. And now I have to take out a little Phillips head in the back of these. They've got a little mechanism on the side here, so when you pull it out, you got to rock it out that way. So the front of the car is that way, back of the car is that way. You might be able to tell by the third brake light missing over there, but you just need to rock it out and then pull it towards the front. Now, something I quickly realized after saying that you need to rock it out to the front of the car, the driver's side actually needs to be rocked out to the rear of the car, because it's the exact same mechanism. And if you put it on the passenger side, it's at the back, and if you put it on the driver's side, it's at the front. So yeah, just keep in mind which side of the car you're doing it on, and then you have to rock it based off of that. It's time to focus on our A and B pillars. We're once again going to work front to back. And the reason that I hate these, you can probably see it better on this side. You see that strip down the center right there? Ends right about there, and it starts right about there. You have to remove that, and it's a very thin piece of plastic that clips in. Everyone breaks those. I've gone to the junkyard and pulled out things like the dashboard on one of these cars. It breaks. Now, I might have the benefit of this being a nice, well-kept indoor car for its lifetime at low mileage, so it wasn't sitting in the sun baking and making that plastic really brittle, but expect to break those. Under those, there's going to be 3 Torx heads. Now, I don't remember what size Torx, I'll tell you when I get to that. There's going to be 3 Torx heads, and that's going to allow that panel to be removed and rock out. So I found a good trick to not breaking these for me was to get under the bottom, what I'm doing right there, and pop it out. And once that was popped out, I could take my skin wedge, which is that metal tool, and run it up slowly, pulling each clip out slowly as much as it wanted to go. If it didn't want to give, I just move on to the next clip, and then I come back to it down the process, and that allowed me to get the whole thing out without it breaking. Okay, so these Torx heads here, they're actually T20s, so I've got a T20 Torx. Okay, with those Torx out, the whole thing should just rock out now. There you go, and there's a sensor in the weather stripping, so be careful. Don't break it. Don't even have to pull the weather strip back on that one. Lastly, we have to remove the B pillars right there, and there's a little bit of step that we have to do to prep. We have to unbolt the seatbelt down there, and it's pretty simple. You just pull off that little cap underneath the T50 Torx head, Now the reason we take that off is so that it can feed through here once we remove this. Okay, seatbelt's been disconnected on both sides. It's super simple from here. You've just got two of these little pins here that we've had all the way around the car. Okay, and with both those out, it should just be simple as rocking it out like that. You gotta be careful and make sure you rock it, because there's these little tabs up here and they'll break, but they're going into metal up top. Okay guys, so here's the problem as I take it. Now I actually don't know if it's going to be a problem, but my understanding is you take the headliner and you shift it back because it's clipped in back there on some kind of like, it's slotted in to something back there near the rear window. That's my understanding. Now that's not actually the problem. The problem is that I don't actually know if I can get it out with the seats in the car still, which means I might have to take the seats out. Now I have a few things I'm going to try and get it out, but ultimately you don't want to crease it. So I'm going to try and get it out with the seats in. If I can't, then I ultimately have to take the seats out just to get the headliner, and then I have to put the seats back in. Definitely wasn't as hard as I was expecting when it came to getting the actual headliner out of the car after we had removed everything. As you can see, and you probably saw in the video, folded down the seats here. It'd definitely be a lot easier if you didn't have the seats or the center console in the car, but it can be done with the seats and the center console of the car. And it's also a problem because these coupes don't have a lot of room to work in because the back section has no door or anything like that. I did have to pull down the weather stripping on the front doors, and I did not do it on the rear quarter windows. Anyway guys, I think that wraps it up for the most part. I'll throw up in that top corner over there, right over there, the weight that we actually pulled out of the car once I tally up how much all of this actually ended up weighing. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.